I mean, it seems like they are implementing self-defeating policies, and they're like loading the gun and putting it to their head and pulling the trigger themselves because you have the largest economic engine now, according to the metrics from the IMF and the CIA, which is the Chinese. Um, they are the largest trade partner to mostly everybody in the world. They're the largest manufacturer. They have the largest currency reserves. They now have the largest armed forces. And at the end of the year, I think they're supposed to surpass the United States. They have the largest air force. They already have the largest navy and army. Um, why would the EU implement policies that will be destructive to the economies that are already in a tailspin from the lunacy of the policies implemented on Russia? I mean, it is mind blowing to me because I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, I understand that the United States has a lot of influence over Europe, but shouldn't the people have more influence? The people of Europe have more influence over the governments of Europe because this is a suicidal path for the leadership of Europe.
Well, I would say no. The voting has it matters less because there is, as you said, you can change the political parties or political leaders, but the policies don't really change, and it is a very self-destructive policy, and nothing really makes sense. I mean, to use an example with now with the war in Ukraine, everyone is more or less recognizing that we're losing this proxy war against Russia. Um, uh, but nonetheless, we have the rotating president of the EU Council, which is Hungary now. You know, their president, sorry, Prime Minister Viktor Orban. He went first to Ukraine to meet Zelensky. He went to Moscow to meet with Putin. He went to Beijing to meet with Xi Jinping. He even went to the U.S. to meet Donald Trump, really trying to hammer out, you know, all the important decision makers, like how can we reach a compromise? What is the possible pathway to peace? The EU responded by, "Oh, you're undermining our consensus, and they're punishing you, punishing Hungary now. It's beyond, it's insane." He did nothing beyond actual diplomacy, but the EU pretty much made a policy: we don't do diplomacy. We only talk to those we agree with. We don't talk to people we disagree with. And how can you explain this if we know we're losing? Surely this is the time to start diplomacy, but we're actually criminalizing it. It's you know, Europe used to be the home of diplomacy, and it's you know, since the Peace of Westphalia, it's all gone. It's completely absurd. And you know, even if you want to link yourself only to the United States, you have this huge belief in it. At the same time, recognizing, you know, if Trump takes power, or comes to the presidency, he would likely impose more tariffs also on allies to rebuild some of America's industrial base. You know, a little bit like the American system in the beginning of the 19th century. You know, there's some good arguments for this. I tend to be a big fan of Hamilton and List in economics, but even if the U.S. wouldn't put tariffs on Europe, there's a huge banking crisis coming, which will be much more severe than 2008. And you know, no one's talking about it, but no one talked about the 2008 crisis before it happened either. Anyways, my point is simply in this situation, surely you want to have a plan B if something goes wrong in the United States, if it's you know, they deliberately increase tariffs or they have a financial crisis. And China's been the largest economy in the world in terms of purchasing power parity since 2014. Surely our priority now should be to hedge our bets, to have many partnerships in case during these turbulent times, in case something goes wrong. But instead, we're doing the exact opposite. We're cutting ourselves off from important centers of power, while the rest of the world is doing the opposite. The Turks, the Indians, Iranians, Latin America, Africa, they're all reaching out to many partners to be not had linked themselves only to one. And in Europe, it's the complete opposite. It makes no sense.
It is just it's mind boggling to see this train wreck in real time happening, and the conductors of the train seem to be oblivious that there is a bridge out ahead, and they continue to go while all of the passengers on it continue to scream, "Hey, stop the train! Stop the train! The bridge is out!" And um, and when I look at the situation in Europe, and I think I went back to Orban, I believe that what is going on between the Slovak prime minister and the prime minister of Hungary and Ukraine, I believe it's being orchestrated by Brussels with the shutting off of the pipeline, and because they took the side of a non-EU member against a EU member. Do you think that the European Union is orchestrating this crisis to bring them in line with European policy? And do you think that the blowback of this could be both nations leaving the European Union?
Well, it definitely makes the EU less appealing because the whole attraction of the EU in the whole idea why countries would join is because they assume that the collective bargaining power of the bloc would make it economically more attractive. The whole idea was initially to have some parity with the United States, that if all the Europeans can collectively bargain with the US, we could have more equality in the economic partnership. But that's not what's not happening now. Since the EU became a much less attractive economic project, what we've seen is that they don't have the carrot anymore. So they're more dependent on the whip. And we saw this with Brexit. That is, well, if you leave, we're going to punish you instead of attracting them. Now with Hungary and Slovakia, it's quite absurd. I mean, with Slovakia, they had an assassination attempt as well. Robert Fico was shot, and in the media, it was more of a very hostile remark to it. Yeah, well, he's very pro-Russian. It's no wonder people are shooting him. It's very strange. Pro-Russian meaning that he would like to find a peaceful solution to the conflict in Ukraine. And now, of course, Ukraine cut the oil deliveries to Hungary and Slovakia, which goes from Russia through Ukraine. And they asked the EU to put pressure on the Ukrainians to return the supply. And the EU says, no, they're not joining this. So they're not even standing by their own member states. So at what point does it make sense to be part of this club, which effectively try to diminish your sovereignty and punishes you and doesn't even stick up for you? So this is why you see countries like Hungary also reaching out more now to China. Also, they want more partnership with Russia and the Arab world, Africa, because if you become too dependent only on the EU bloc, then they can do these things to you, and there's nothing you can do. So now the EU has become a very strange place, especially for people like me who, when studied in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was this peace project, this economic miracle. We all trade with each other. We didn't do politics like before. Some of it was obvious nonsense, but the concepts we used was normative power, civilian power, ethical power, all this stuff. And now it's just war, no more diplomacy, punish and sanction our own member state if they don't obey. And at the same time, the economies are falling apart because of silly decisions.
It doesn't that mirror the United States' sanction policy to sanction everybody and anybody that disagrees with her hegemonic ways and her imperialistic policy? And isn't it like the EU just reflecting America's policy with that?
To a large extent.
Told you to walk away. That was my first and last mistake. I'm blue without your face. But what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a